The room pulsed with the low hum of chatter, champagne flutes clinking like distant bells, and the sharp scent of cologne mingling with perfume. I stood near the bar, my tie slightly loosened, watching my wife, Elise, glide through the corporate gala like she belonged in its glittering orbit. Her navy dress hugged her curves, catching the light as she laughed with a cluster of suits. Then I saw it, his hand broad and possessive, curling around her waist. Richard Voss, her boss, leaned too close, his lips grazing her ear as he whispered something that made her cheeks flush. My stomach churned, a primal instinct screaming that this wasn't just a boss being friendly. It was a claim bold and shameless, right in front of me. I gripped my glass, the cold biting my palm, and told myself I was overreacting. Elise worked long hours at Voss Enterprises, climbing the ladder under Richard's mentorship. Late nights, shared glances, her phone buzzing at odd hours with his name flashing. I'd brushed it all off as ambition, her drive to succeed. But now, watching his fingers linger on her hip, I felt the ground shift beneath me. My heart thudded, a mix of rage and dread, as I scanned her face for a clue. Did she lean into him? Was that a smile or a flinch? The room spun, the laughter and music fading into a dull roar in my ears. I forced myself to breathe, to think. Elise wasn't like that. She loved me, didn't she? We'd built a life together, 10 years of late-night talks, shared dreams, and quiet mornings tangled in sheets. But doubt crept in, slithering through memories. Her distracted silences, the way she'd started locking her phone, the perfume she wore only for work. Small things easily explained, but now they stacked like evidence in a trial I didn't want to face. "Mark, you okay?" Tom, my old college buddy, clapped a hand on my shoulder, his voice pulling me back. I nodded, forcing a smile, but my eyes stayed on Elise. She'd stepped away from Richard now, her posture stiff, but he followed, his presence looming like a shadow. The gala was in full swing, a cavernous ballroom draped in gold and crystal, servers weaving through the crowd with trays of canapes. Richard's voice carried over the din, smooth and commanding, as he addressed a group of execs. He was the king here, the alpha boss, his charisma a magnet for admiration. And something darker. I moved closer, weaving through the crowd, my pulse hammering. Elise caught my eye, her smile faltering for a split second before she waved me over. "Mark, there you are." Her voice was bright, too bright, like she was performing. Richard turned, his gaze locking onto me, a flicker of amusement in his eyes. "This must be the husband," he said, extending a hand. His grip was firm, almost crushing, a silent challenge. "Elise speaks highly of you." "Does she?" I replied, my tone sharper than intended. Elise's eyes darted to mine, a flash of worry crossing her face. I wanted to ask her right then, to demand what the hell was going on, but the crowd pressed in, and Richard was already steering the conversation, his arm brushing hers as he gestured. My chest tightened, a mix of jealousy and betrayal clawing at me. Was I paranoid, or was this real? The night dragged on, each moment a slow torture. I watched them, Richard's lingering looks, Elise's nervous laughter. During his keynote speech, he praised her work, calling her indispensable, with a smile that felt too intimate. The audience clapped, oblivious, but I saw the way her hands twisted in her lap, the way she avoided my gaze. My mind raced, piecing together fragments. The late-night texts, the work trips that left her exhausted but vague, the way she'd pull away when I touched her. I wanted to scream, to drag her out of there, but I stayed rooted, paralyzed by the fear of what I'd find if I pushed too hard. Then it happened. As the gala wound down, Richard pulled Elise onto the dance floor, his hand sliding low on her back. She didn't resist, but her eyes found mine, wide and pleading, as if begging me to understand. My vision blurred, anger and heartbreak colliding. I couldn't take it anymore. I stormed to the stage, where the mic still stood from Richard's speech, and grabbed it, my hands trembling. "Ladies and gentlemen," I said, my voice shaking but loud, cutting through the music. The room froze, heads turning. Elise's face paled, and Richard's eyes narrowed, his grip on her tightening. "I have something to say." My throat burned, but I pushed on. "Richard Voss, the man you're all applauding, has been crossing lines with my wife. I've seen it tonight, and I've suspected it for months. His mentorship is a lie. He's using his power to manipulate, To take what isn't his. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Elise broke free, rushing toward me, her voice a desperate whisper. Mark, stop. You don't understand. But I couldn't stop. The words poured out, raw and unstoppable, as I recounted every red flag, every gut-wrenching doubt. Richard's face twisted, his charm replaced by cold fury, but he didn't deny it. The silence that followed was deafening. Elise grabbed my arm, tears streaming down her face. Mark, it's not what you think. He's been pressuring me, threatening my job. I didn't know how to tell you. Her voice broke, and my world shattered again. Not with betrayal, but with guilt. She hadn't cheated. She'd been trapped, cornered by a predator in a suit. My anger shifted, burning toward Richard, who stood frozen, his empire crumbling under the weight of my words. The aftermath was chaos. Whispers spread, phones buzzed, and Richard's colleagues distanced themselves, their faces a mix of shock and disgust. Elise clung to me, sobbing, as we left the gala, the weight of her truth sinking in. She'd been fighting alone, too scared to confide in me, and I'd almost lost her to my own doubts. Days later, news broke. Richard was fired, his reputation in tatters after others came forward with similar stories. Elise quit, vowing never to return. We sat in our quiet living room, the air heavy with unspoken pain. I should have told you, she whispered, her hand trembling in mine. I was so afraid. I should have seen it, I said, my voice thick. I should have protected you. We were both broken, but together. The betrayal wasn't hers. It was his, and I'd made sure he paid. But the scars lingered, a reminder that trust, once cracked, takes time to heal. As I held her, I knew we'd fight for it, for us, no matter how long it took.